to ask this question of, but you're here, so
yeah, I don't know. Like, we were talking earlier. I don't play a whole lot of those kinds of games, so I'm trying to think back of the ones that I have played. And I don't think so. Like I saw one of the questions scrolling up, like what was the road to war in Next War Iran, and so my answer for that is probably the same one that revolves to that is most of these games start after all that stuff is done and the shooting part has started, right? Now there might be some rules in some of those Warsaw Pact games of Poland and East German troops aren't necessarily as efficient, right? Because they don't really want to be doing it, but I can't recall off the top of my head any that.
Well, for the Warsaw Pact, I can recall that the next, I almost said the next war, the Third World War series, the Chadwick series, does have some of the Warsaw Pact countries are somewhat unreliable and may pull out.
Yes, that's right. I remember that now.
Yeah. And there is some, I mean, there's some modeling in the enthusiasm levels on the factors of the counters too, right?
Right.
So so that's definitely a thing that is in some of those games, but I don't know that I've ever seen a game do that with like a NATO power, which is, I guess, an interesting question. So actually, no, I think I'm maybe not NATO per se, but if we look at Persian Gulf, the fourth game in the Third World War series, any of those countries can end up on one side or the other. Almost any of those countries, depending on how those events play out.
The only one I remember in NATO Next War in Europe, and this is the original version, not the new version, is that there was some weirdness around the French and their involvement, whether they would come in or stay in. But I think that had more to do with what the Warsaw Pact was doing than anything else.
Yeah, we played the sort of build-up scenario when we played the new one, and there are some limitations on what you can and cannot do with the French units, but at least in the scenario we played, there wasn't like the French insisted they're neutral or anything like that. So, and the French have always been, kind of performatively free-willed part of the NATO alliance, right?
De Gaulle's legacy.
Yeah. So, so Jeff Westovich says, V for V. Hasn't seen any Boer War games that have come close to the complexity of the engines we used on. I'm not sure what any of these abbreviations mean. When I see AH's Next War, I think Avalon Hill's Next War, and I'm not sure that that's what is intended here. And when I see CC, I think of Combat Commander.
Yeah.
And I'm reasonably sure that's
probably Mark Herman's Next War, right?
Well, if that's not Avalon Hill though, that's that big SPI.
Yeah, was it SPI? No, yeah, right, because it was that big fat box.
Soapbox, only in a soapbox that never got released in a flat tray. They may have sold it in a Ziploc though, because they did do that.
Right. Yeah, V for V is.
Yeah, I had that years ago, sold it off years ago, traded it for a copy of Empire of the Petal Throne, which I don't regret, but I kind of still wish I had it too. So, just catching up on the chat here. Lots of folks are welcoming Dan back after whatever happened last week. V for Victory, close combat computer games. Okay, well that explains why I have no idea what you're talking about then. So they might be awesome. I just don't know that.
No computer games.
I used to have both close combat games from Microsoft. Wasn't it from Microsoft?
Microprose.
Microprose. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to love them, man. Didn't know what the hell was going on, but I loved it.
I guess this wasn't really. Mitch, I did warn you we were going to drift.
Oh, that's fine. No, we're good.
I did try my best to play the original Hearts of Iron and for PC, and I could not get it to not crash or to run properly. So I never touched that until it was Hearts of Iron 3 time. And I've played a couple complete games of that, and I enjoyed that a lot. I wouldn't call it a perfect war game, but no, it's pretty close. I mean, it's area movement, but the areas all kind of have are adjacent to 6 other little areas, so they might as well be hexes. Close enough.
Yes. That's funny you say that. People are like, well, which is better for war? I'm like, there's no difference. It's just a presentation of the map. If I have a point-to-point system and I have 6 lines coming out of it, it's a hex, right?
Yeah, it's topologically identical.
Right. It's just, it's how you want to portray it. No, I think certain map styles are better for certain types of games, for sure, right? But that's a
Hey, Mitch, I'm looking at BGG on all your games, and everything listed on BGG is Next War whatever, but the first the first game listed is Silver Bayonet that you co-designed with Gene Billingsley.
So Gene, when GMT started, Gene and his partner, they released a set of 3 games: Silver Bayonet, Air Bridge to Victory, and
Operation Shoestring.
Operation Shoestring, thank you. All kind of using the same base system. And then a few years ago, he wanted to redo Silver Bayonet as a 25th anniversary edition. So we worked on that together, and that's what that is.
And
it's very fancy, by the way.
Yeah, he wanted to go all out on the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, it's a very nice package.
Yeah.
My inquiry on that is that what you're focusing on now is hypothetical Next War type games, or are you well?
I think he's also got a slight amount of attention that he's got to pay to holding the fire hose on the GMT website servers from time to time.
Right.
So
they announced a new sale or whatever.
Like, for example, the monthly update comes out. Oh shit!
Jesus Christ,
Right. And it never fails. There's some pending update on the server, or the ISP was in there working on something, whatever, right? But nobody needs to hear that stuff.
So are you working
I think the question you're asking, so right now our primary focus is Next War Iran and Next War Taiwan 2nd edition. So we're working on those, testing both of them at the same time. My gut feels that Next War Taiwan 2nd edition will come out first, mostly because there's not as far to go as I mean, this is brand new. 2nd edition is just 2nd edition, right?
Well, Next War Taiwan hasn't that been on the P500 for like 5 years?
It's been there for a while, yeah.
So I'm assuming, you might as well. I hope you got your will done, because that game, you know what I'm saying?
We want to get it out before it actually happens. So, no, but the problem I absolutely want to do follow-on Silver Bayonet. So games using the Silver Bayonet system or a tweak thereof. I mean, that particular system is kind of very much geared to that battle. The problem is finding a situation that's similar to what happened in the Drang Valley, right? I mean, there's a ton of operations in Vietnam, but not all of them are really well suited for that meeting engagement kind of deal between the U.S. and NVA that decided to stand and fight, right? Most of the time, we contacted them and they decided to leave. So.
And what year was the La Drang?
65.
65.
That was the first big battle that got at least news coverage. And that's in the movie, Dan. You should remember that.
Yeah. We were soldiers.
Yeah, okay, but whatever.
Good movie too, by the way.
It was.
It's a great movie. Great movie.
I gotta read the book.
Very compressed in time, but yes, great movie.
Who's that guy with the mustache there?
Sam Elliott. I believe that role is played by Sam Elliott's mustache.
Yeah. When he gets up and he says, "It's an
Oscar
nominated day to die"
for best performance by a mustache.
Yeah.
That award goes to Sam Elliott every year. Sam Elliott's mustache makes a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, it's a good movie.
Mitch, are you going to be doing any other type games other than Next War series?
I don't know. I have ideas, but
like sci-fi or something.
No, despite my April 1st post. But
I said, in complete seriousness, I would totally buy that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Next War Mars. I'm sold. Just shut up.
The funny thing is, I started to actually think about it. I'm like, I wonder what we would have to change to make that work. So we'll see. What after Red Dust Rebellion comes out, I'll talk to the designer and say, so can we But anyway, no, I would absolutely. I really want to do a naval war game based. So something you could do a higher fidelity version. So you could tack it on to add even more complexity to a complex game, right? Or play standalone. But I'd really like to do that. But that's you got to have time. Sadly.
Yeah.
You got time. Look at you. You're a good-looking young man.
I appreciate that.
And I will say that one of the places in which the world of computer wargame simulations has not let us down is in the air naval space with Command Modern Operations. which is a very comprehensive and detailed simulation.
I did download it. I have not played it.
Exactly the same thing. I got it downloaded. I've opened it up and said,
I did the first few tutorials.
I ain't got time for this right now.
Right. I mean, you talk about detail.
I'll play Minecraft instead.
Right.
So yeah, it's super detailed. I'm real impressed with what they've done with that. But it's you know, it's kind of the war game we were promised by Jim Dunnigan personally in 1984 when he wrote that book.
Right.
That said, you know, this all gonna be taken over by computers anyway. And Jim appears to have been premature on that particular analysis. Because
I mean, in some instances, so I forget who said it before. That you're right. I think for air and naval games, it is far superior to any kind of. I mean, the problem with, in my opinion, the problem with naval war games, and this actually is any era, is sighting, you know, and detection, because that's really what that naval war game is about. Whoever finds you first, you're dead. It's really what it's going to come down to. So that's really hard to do when you can see the whole map and you can see everybody on it.
Yes. And I mean, imagine as an example the amount of overhead that goes into that exact question in something like Pacific War. Right. So much of Pacific War is designed around those considerations.
Correct. And it handles it pretty well.
Yeah, but you know, it's a lot. That's a lot to chew on too. Right. Somebody asked me today, "How come you haven't done more videos on Pacific War?" And I said, "Because I have other stuff." And it's like the kind of thing where I had to be like laser focused just on that to kind of the mental exercise involved in figuring that out. It really requires a dedicated period in which you study the game intensely and read and reread the rule book to kind of glean all the important tidbits, which are in the rule book, but I didn't see them on the first pass. So
it's a dense rule book.
Yeah, it's a very dense rule book. So, but it's Mo from Mo's Game Tables here. Mo, thanks for coming by.
I don't know how anybody designs a game, how they can split their head like that, like make it run for a couple of years, man. I mean, Jesus, man. Like, aren't you sick of it? You know?
I guess you haven't talked to enough OCS players.
Yeah.
They're in fact not sick of it yet.
Like, how many times can you go over your game?
They're still playing that game of Case Blue they started in 2016, Dan.
Well, see, Dan, that's why you hand the game off to a developer and then you go work on the next game because you're tired of that one. I mean, it's funny because I rarely play, occasionally, but I rarely play any of the previous titles. It's always, hey, what's this new title that I'm working on? Oh, that's really fun. Yeah, I'm tired of that. Let's move on to something.
Okay, so Mitch, how long do you work on that before you pass it on to the developer?
Well, I mean, so Ralph and I have been working on Next War for a long time together, so we don't really pass it off anymore. We're more doing it all at the same time now. And he'll tell me I'm a little too hands-on and to bug off and let him develop it. But you know, I like tinkering with him, so that's part of the problem, I guess, from his point of view. But
I mean, you got a life. This is not an 8-hour a day job.
Oh no. Feels like it sometimes, but I mean, the nice thing is, you know, I'm getting to do what I want to do. I'm playing that. So people always ask, well, why are you making that? Well, because I want to play a game that's actually in print, not this. This is all playtest, and it's really nice, but it's not a production copy, right? So I make the game so that I can get a production copy and never play it again. But
like, let me ask about that actually, because we had Kai on not too terribly long ago, and in addition to absolutely crucifying Dan in an exceptionally memorable clip, we had grilled her about sort of the production process at GMT, or the development process, which she didn't. You know, she's more of the production side.
Right.
From your perspective, because you've been working with GMT on these designs, and I feel like there have been some implemented changes in the way GMT does development for a lot of games. Have you seen that from your side of things? Because you may not have, I figure. Because you got your method, and Ralph's got his method, and everything's working great.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they have. So I've seen it, but only from the distance on the outside, right? So they've instituted some new things on the development side. If you need development help, they can find it for you. Obviously, I've been lucky enough to have Ralph be the developer, and he's very interested in Modern Warfare stuff too. So it worked out nicely. So we've worked together. So not only did we work together on all the Next War stuff, but we also worked together on the Vietnam 1965-1975 reprint, right? So in that sense, I haven't really seen that, but the way GMT runs it is, if you've got your team and you guys are running fine, then they'll just leave you alone to do your thing, and you just tell them, hey, this is ready for art, or it's not. Right. And it goes from there. I think a lot of other teams, so I'll say it, even though it sounds bad, they need more hand holding. That's not really what I mean, is that they need more assistance, I guess is the right term, because they haven't been doing it as long, right? It might be their first game and they just don't know how the process works, and so they get a little bit more tender loving care in that instance.
So Mitch, the game is finished, it's ready for printing, you throw it at GMT and GMT takes your word for it, they don't peruse it, nothing?
Honestly, don't know. I think that probably depends a lot on the designer and the development team. So obviously with the Next War stuff, we've been doing it long enough that when we tell them it's ready for art, it's ready for art, right? The other ones, I know Kai, for instance, has reviewed some games. I just don't know what the extent of what they do or don't review, right?
Wow, that's pretty, look, with all due respect, that's GMT, that's pretty gutsy.
Well, with all due respect, I feel like there are certain GMT games that don't have Next War on the box that maybe didn't get some additional review once they passed out of the hands of the developer and designer.
Right.
And I'm not, this is not some shocking revelation or anything by anybody who has tried to figure out how to play the Gathering Storm from reading the Gathering Storm, which is not a comprehensible rule book to learn that game from, right? So, and I guess that is sort of the opposite approach from, there's a sort of two poles of war game accessibility to start to wrap this conversation up. At one end lies a game like Atlantic Chase, which has really innovative presentation and has kind of a hand-holding rule book to kind of walk you through the various steps involved in playing the game. And then by the time you're ready to play one of the real honest-to-goodness scenarios, you're ready to go and hardly hard to look at the rule book ever again. And on the other hand, you've got things like a World at War or a Gathering Storm, where the rules materials are obviously not intended to teach you how to play the game. You're expected to know how to play the game when you buy it, through presumably sorcery. And they're just not learning rule books, right? Which is, in itself is fine if you have the resources to find somebody to teach you how to play, I suppose, or the vast store of saint-like patience required to sit there and just noodle with it until you finally figured it out.
I think a lot of that too. So one of the things I've seen, everybody wants a solo system, which that's fine, whatever. But the problem is, if you're trying to solo a game and you're trying to learn it on your own, then you're falling into that trap of you're learning it on your own. Right?
That's difficult.
Nobody to bounce that idea off of. Nobody to ask, am I reading this right? Or, so I think that might play into some of that issue is, people, I think a lot of games were designed in the intent that you're going to play it with somebody else, right? And get that second opinion on how the rules should work. I hearken, and Ralph and I actually talk about this a lot. Gamers are spoiled today because they can get on BGG, console, whatever. Hey, Mitch, how does this work? Right? And I try to be fairly good about answering relatively quickly, and I try not to be too snarky, but sometimes it's been a long day. But, it's different from the days. Send a self-stamped envelope
with a yes or no, question.
Formulate your question as a yes or no, which is funny because if you formulate your question as a yes or no, 9 times out of 10 you're going to answer it before you send it. So
that's interesting. Or worse yet, when people would call Gary Gygax on the phone that they got out of the phone book to answer their rules questions.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding at all. That's a thing that would happen in the early to mid 70s.
Oh yeah.
And of course, it's Gary Gygax, so you're going to spend an hour and a half on the phone with him. Frank Davis, Frank, thanks for stopping by. Much appreciated. Mike Berticelli says that most games will go to Jason Carr for final proofing before being headed to the printer. So I want to take Mike's word for this. Mike has more insight on.
Like I said, it depends on the team. So.
We will have Jason Carr on the show, by the way, 2 weeks from today. Yeah, 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks, huh?
2 weeks from today. So we got
God,
that.
I'm gonna give that guy such a shellacking.
Oh Jesus, this again. You know, if he can clap back half as profoundly as Kai did, maybe.
No, I don't know. That was a curveball, man. I didn't see that coming.
Crushing. That was a fastball.
Oh, the clip's too long, or I would have embedded it in this stream and I'd be playing it every week.
It should just be part of the intro.
Did you see that? Mitch, did you see that? That
Kai, I did.
When she gave me a shot?
I shoved the knife in there and twisted it.
Jesus!
I clipped it. I couldn't not clip that. Like,
I was like, what just happened here?
Why am I bleeding from the jugular vein?
It's the funniest part to me is that she didn't seem like she knew she did it.
No,
I'm not sure she did.
Right.
Wow.
But I picked up on it right away.
Just like a boom.
Oh.
I was like, what just happened?
Oh, you know, nuclear mic drop. That's exactly right. She dropped they dropped Fat Man right on Dan's head.
You know, she's great. She's just I love that woman, man.
So he's politer to her than he's being to you, just so you know.
Who?
You.
Nah, come on. I'm the same with everybody.
Pretty much. You're obnoxious, but equally obnoxious to everyone.
Yeah, I'm not wearing any pants.
We love you, Dan. We love you very much, but fucking cool it. Okay. I'm just saying. As Mo says, Fat Man, Little Boy, and Sarbamba.
There you go.
Got dropped on, which is Ty's brother. I don't know if everybody knows that is Sarbamba. So, who designs the non-hypothetical games, I suppose.
No, you know, is Mo calling me a fat man, a little boy? Because he ain't calling me a Sarbamba.
He's saying all the nuclear bombs.
Yes, I know what he's saying. I'm being self-deprecating here. What's the matter with you?
Okay, I'm not 100% sure we're selling that, but what does this little star do? I wonder. How can I? What does that do? Interesting. Okay. I don't know what this does. Oh, cool. There's a tool for moderators that I've just discovered in the StreamYard chat after using StreamYard for 4 years. So neat. There are definitely nukes in Ty Bomba's Napoleonic design. Yes. I got the Austerlitz game. You'll have to take my word for it. So, and Mitch, I don't suppose you're going to tell us today, and you may. I recognize that you may not have made this decision yet, of what next war game is on the itinerary after next war Iran.
Yeah, I don't
know. Next war Italy.
Yeah, close. I do have ideas, but it's too early to tell. So
okay.
I don't want to say anything because then it'll never happen. You know?
We'll accept that answer for now.
So look, close. Next war Italy. What's closer? Spain,
we're gonna get
France?
these out. I am looking to Silver Bayonet follow on. I've been reading up on the Ashaw Valley. Just aptly named the Valley of Death. So we'll see.
So it's from talking to folks who've worked on operational Vietnam games. It does seem like it's hard just to do the research.
Yeah.
There's not that many good sources at that scale.
No, a lot of down at the grunt level, which I mean they're all great books, but they're not really talking about it from the operational level, right? So you end up having to go to the AARs, and those are if they're not on the Texas University site or whatever, it's very hard to find.
Mo, by the way, I think you hit the nail on the head.
How much let me ask that actually. Let me ask how much, and I recognize that you're working on modern, military affairs type stuff, and this might be different if you're working on World War II or Civil War, whatever. How much of your research for this effort is able to be done online from publicly accessible sources?
I'd say about 60%, mostly. I mean, a lot of it, to be honest, it's Wikipedia, and then you find an article somewhere and you bounce it up against it to see, okay, is that really right? Or like a couple of those resources I mentioned earlier. Well, not War on the Rocks so much. That's just more for breaking news or breaking defense news.
Oh, what do you mean, Mitch?
Like the International Institute for Strategic Studies, you'll take that order of battle that they publish and you'll bounce it up against publicly available source and say, okay, yeah, this is good enough for what we're doing. Right.
So what are you saying? You're saying Wikipedia is not the final go-to?
Right.
I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Right.
So, I mean, people, I guess we'll waste the last minute and a half by talking in a defense of Wikipedia here. Wikipedia is not actually meant to be a repository of all human knowledge. It's meant to be an online encyclopedia. It's not any less reliable than the Encyclopedia Britannica was in that respect. So if you're using encyclopedia, I mean, if you're writing a dissertation, you're probably not referencing an Encyclopedia Britannica article either, right? But if you're in 6th grade and learning what a citation is, then maybe you can use Wikipedia or something like that. So I mean, it's just easy to search, right?
And it depends on the topic, right? I mean, controversial topics, it's probably not.
Oh, good.
Right.
Or sports teams where the people will vandalize the sports team sites.
Right. Yeah.
That was great.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think Manchester United's Wikipedia article got vandalized at some point.
Yeah.
In a hilarious
nobody cares
way.
to vandalize the capabilities and characteristics of the Patriot missile.
Yeah. The most outrageous piece of Wikipedia sports page vandalism, though, was on the Cleveland Browns website, where they replaced the Wikipedia article with the Cleveland Browns actual records. That was very mean-spirited of that person, and I'm still angry at them. So,
Mitch, are you a St. Louis fan?
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about the Blues, man, hockey.
Yeah.
There you go, man. There you go.
Is the hockey for the year?
Here.
They were there, man. They were there.
What's really, not to totally digress, but that's almost the same damn team that won the cup.
When did they win that cup?
Just tanked a couple years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I'm from Cleveland, Mitch.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm just.
Do they play hockey in Cleveland?
No. They literally signed a deal with somebody who's dead now.
Not allowed.
That says they're not allowed to have NHL.
Yeah, I know.
We have a football team still. We have the Battlehawks, which is they're fun to watch. But
what happened to the
Cardinals? Went to Phoenix.
Well, that was a long time ago.
It was.
I almost said the St. Louis Rams. I ain't that old.
Yeah, the Rams went back to LA, and we won our lawsuit, so we got a lot of money for that.
Oh yeah, and that reminds me, you guys stole the Rams from Cleveland, didn't you?
Now you guys talking baseball, football? What's going on?
Football.
Yeah, but you said Cleveland.
Cleveland Rams.
Oh, I thought you were talking. Okay,
ended up going to St. Louis.
What about the Phillies? You were talking about the Phillies.
I didn't mention the Phillies. The Phillies are from Philadelphia. I mean, obviously the Phillies are from Philadelphia.
I mean, there's the St. Louis Browns.
That's true.
Well, they used to be the St. Louis Browns.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to them. That's the baseball team.
Right.
What happened to them?
I think they just either morphed or died. One of the two.
Okay. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think professional sports sucks in terms of administration. They can all go themselves. And in hockey, Gary Bettman's an asshole because we have the Quebec Nordiques who, Jesus Christ, were the Avalanche, but now we got a hockey rink ready to go, but Bettman doesn't want to sell us a goddamn team. Please stop.
Stop the show. Okay, folks, I believe we've had enough.
Yep.
While Dan is
meltdown,
tearing at his clothes over there like an old widowed woman. I would like to thank Dan for coming on and joining me tonight. I'd especially like to thank you, Mitch, for agreeing to come on. We appreciate it. I might ask you to come back and be embarrassed again.
Sure.
Being associated with these clowns on this show. So in the meantime, thank you so much for everything. And thanks, Mitch, for watching. And we'll all see you next week. We will have in the coming weeks, we'll have an announcement about this show. So stay tuned for all that too. So everybody have a great
dancing
night.
Girls.
There might be hookers and blow.
Big move.